We did just about everything in our power to try and sell this place to a buyer that would pay the absolute most amount of money for it, but we just couldn't get them across the finish line in terms of getting them to wrap their heads around the poor management of the building. Home buyers, when they're looking for a condominium or a townhouse, are always looking for a variety of things, but one of the things that we hear most frequently is that I want a home with the lowest strata fees possible. The lowest strata fees possible? Is this really the best thing for the condominium or townhome that you're looking to buy? Today's video is all about exploring the differences between high strata buildings and low strata fee buildings and what it means to you as a home buyer. First, we're going to start with a story about a strata that we tried to sell that we had some pretty serious trouble with. Next, we're going to give you some facts that should get any home buyer, or maybe anyone that lives in a condominium or a townhome, really concerned. And finally, we're going to make sure that if you are someone that's looking to buy a strata property, that you have the information you need to make a really good decision. So if that sounds good, let's jump right into it. So the story goes like this. We had this condominium listed for sale in the city of New Westminster. And the condo, there was nothing overly special about the unit itself. It had some wear and tear to it, and it could have used some updating, but generally it was priced fairly well, and it was being put for sale in a market that should really receive it quite well. The Strata Council of this particular condominium complex took it upon themselves to make it an absolute priority to keep the strata fees as low as humanly possible, thinking this would really help for resale as well as benefit the owners of the building. This created somewhat of an echo chamber for all of those on the Strata Council, so they did everything in their power to continuously fight for every penny for their strata when it came to management contracts, landscaping contracts, maintenance contracts, anything like that. Naturally, those that aren't in the know, meaning the other owners of the building, well, they thought this was a great strategy as well. I mean, hey, lower carrying costs generally. No one is really going to object to that, you would think. Initially, the buyers, well, they love it too, and this particular condo was no different. We got tons and tons and tons of showings on this particular condominium. We actually had offer after offer after offer as well. It was a hot property because the price was right, but the strata fees were just so low. This is a really great time to mention our new BC Homebuyers course. With over 3 hours of video content, all made and available for you to learn at your own pace from the comfort of your home. With over 3 hours of video content, complete with questionnaires, cheat sheets, and quizzes to make sure you get the absolute most out of your home when purchasing. We've made this course free to any of our YouTube subscribers because we can't be all across the province of British Columbia, and we want to make sure that anybody and everybody buying a home has the information they need to not only protect themselves, but be successful in the process. So if you'd like to check it out, down in the description below after you subscribe, you'll find the link to access the course material for free. The problem really came into effect when these offers, which we of course were accepting because they were good offers, these buyers started to do their due diligence on these properties to learn more about the property before they committed to actually buying it. Part of that due diligence was reviewing the strata generally, whether it was with a home inspection or reviewing the strata documentation with the whole avalanche of documents that are involved in doing so. The nightmare of a hurdle that this particular complex and unit had to overcome was these strata documents read like an absolute horror story. Stephen King himself could not write a novel as bad as how these strata documents read. The strata was completely underfunded, there was levies coming down the pipe, and the management company was completely missing in action. So naturally what happened is almost every single buyer that put an offer on this property pulled out. They had zero interest in getting involved with a property that had so many issues that were either ongoing or upcoming. For those of you that don't know, strata fees are based on something called unit entitlement. Unit entitlement is set by the developer when the building is first constructed. And it's really just a formula of the amount of space you occupy within the entire complex. To make it simple, if you have 10 units in a strata building and they were all the same size, essentially you should all have effectively the same unit entitlement, meaning you would all pay the same amount of a strata fee, which goes towards the general expenses of the condominium or strata complex. And these fees cover a variety of things. They cover things like insurance costs. They cover things like management and landscaping and maintenance. And they also go into something called a contingency fund. One of the interesting things about condominiums in British Columbia is many of them are actually completely underfunded. It's estimated in British Columbia that over 90% of stratas are actually underfunded. That's saying that most BC stratas don't collect nearly enough funds as part of their strata fees to keep up with the upcoming costs that are going to be associated with owning and maintaining their strata buildings. Considering things like maintenance and special levies being non-regular recurring events that require significant funding in a strata or to cover emergencies, well, these are large, unexpected expenses that a strata needs to be prepared for. Based on unit entitlement, those expenses are going to be divided amongst all of the strata owners. How do we fare in Greater Vancouver when it comes to our strata fees? SquareOne.ca, which is an online insurance company, states that monthly condo fees in the Greater Toronto area average at about 65 cents per square foot, whereas in Greater Vancouver, our monthly condo fees average about 45 cents per square foot. This means that on average, people in Toronto are paying approximately $160 more per month for their strata fees than people in Greater Vancouver. We are simply paying too little in strata fees. This is partially due to differences in provincial condo legislation, but effectively in Greater Vancouver, we are paying significantly less in our strata fees, which is setting up many buildings for failure. So much so that the BC government is getting involved in this. Starting in November of this year, the BC government is raising the minimum contribution to the contingency fund in all strata complexes from 5% to 10%. This is annually, so from 5% of the operating budget to 10% of the operating budget. New complexes are not immune from this as well, and new complexes are notoriously underfunded. So now developers will also have to start off a new construction complex with at least 10% of the annual operating fund in the contingency fund. This is up from 5%. And if you're keeping score at home, this means the price of new construction come November is going to go up because the developer has to contribute more to the contingency fund. Strata fees are a very interesting thing, and I think when you put it into perspective, it helps make a little more sense. So I want to paint a little bit of a scenario for you right now. Imagine you've got two identical homes in two identical buildings right beside each other. They're in the same location, the same age, the same size, and they have the exact same finishings. Condo building A has $100,000 in the contingency reserve fund, while condo B has $300,000 in the fund. Both are 20-year-old buildings and will require some significant updating in the years to come. Building A has a brand new roof, new fences, and new hot water boilers, all of which Building B does not and will be due to be upgraded very soon. Building A just paid $400,000 out of their contingency fund for the new roof, new fences, and new hot water boiler. The strata fees in Building A are $450 per month, and no special levy was called to help fund the new repairs or upgrades. Building B has a strata fee of $400 per month, $50 less per month than Building A. My question to you is, which building is a better buy? It's Building A. Of course it's Building A. And the reason it's Building A is because Building A has been appropriately budgeting for these upgrades through their strata fees. The owners of Building B have been underfunding their strata. They may have saved some money in the short term, but they have been significantly underfunding their building, and the owners of this building are going to get stuck with a significant special levy to help do the upcoming repairs or maintenance. Of course, there's things to factor in whenever you're looking at stratas, and they're all different, exactly what this example goes to prove. You have to consider things like the age of building. Older buildings often have higher fees because they have higher ongoing and projected maintenance costs. Large buildings often have lower fees than small ones because the costs are split amongst a greater number of owners. And the amenities in the building influence fees as well. A building with a pool, fitness center, and racquetball court would have additional fees to cover the operation and maintenance of those amenities. So what are the risks to owners of underfunded buildings or somebody that wants to buy in a building that maybe is underfunded? One of the reasons the BC government is raising the minimum contribution to the contingency fund is because of the insurance challenges the strata industry has had over the last few years, which got largely brushed under the rug because it kind of came to earth as the COVID-19 pandemic was beginning. The BC government says ushering in these changes will help protect strata owners in developments at risk of higher insurance costs due to neglected maintenance needs. Many of these underfunded buildings were simply using their insurance policies to help do the needed maintenance to upkeep their buildings, which now is resulting in higher insurance fees for everybody. There's also increased costs and increased levies. You can choose to continuously fix and patch a leaking roof, but every time that roof leaks, you need to call in tradespeople to not only fix the roof, but the drywall and anything within the complex or a unit that gets damaged from that leak. And that can get expensive very, very quickly. Of course, there's also the decreased resale value of an improperly funded strata. Those units are going to sell for less every time, just like the example of the New West condo I told at the beginning, because the strata is completely underfunded. There's really only three things that can happen when you live in a strata. And I want to caveat this by saying I've heard it all before.
I know how to spend my money better than the Strata does. It's better in my bank than it is in theirs.
No, it's not. You're absolutely wrong. The only three things that can happen is pay now, pay later, or a hybrid of both. Pay now means having the appropriate strata fees to address the annual operations of the strata, the required maintenance, and to put the appropriate amount needed to cover future maintenance in the contingency fund so you don't get stuck with a big bill ever. The pay later method is exactly what these underfunded stratas are doing. While they may be keeping the price of their strata fees artificially low, they are going to pay for the maintenance of that building. It just might not be today, but it will be tomorrow. All types of property, regardless of what they are, whether it is a house, a townhome, or a condo, are going to have ongoing maintenance needs. So you pay now, you pay later, or you do a hybrid of both. This means contributing a reasonable amount into your strata fees and thus the contingency fund. So if a special levy or a special project does come due and needs to be done, the bill is not a humongous bill that's going to sink the majority of strata owners financially. So how do you prevent from buying in a strata complex that's going to cost you really big money down the line? You want to review the depreciation report of the building, basically a 30-year planning tool that looks at all aspects of the strata complex, how old they are, how much they would cost today to replace, and how much they might cost to replace when the time comes, adjusted for inflation. You're also going to want to take a peek at the history of increases of strata fees over the last few years to see if the strata is actually appropriately managing their finances. And lastly, you're going to want to review the strata minutes when you buy a property so you can get a good idea of exactly what's going on in that complex. And you might even consider talking to a third party not involved in the sale, like a strata manager or a strata council president. So what ended up happening with this New West condo? Well, we sold it. Of course we did. We're that good. But it wasn't without a lot of bumps in the road due to a significantly underfunded, poorly managed strata property. I'm curious what you think and what your experience is with your particular strata, whether you feel it's underfunded, overfunded, or generally, what do you think about your strata charging you money at all? And while you're down there in the comments, if you are someone that's looking to either purchase a property or sell your existing one and you'd like to speak with me and my team, there is a link below where you can book time with me directly in my calendar and we'll give you all the information that you need to be successful. I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content from the Germyn Group, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.